Hey there. So I needed a couple days. I just was like, oh my gosh, it was a little overwhelming to me because I really try to respond to people. And for me, there were some meanies who said some mean things, and it just really can throw you off. So one thing I just want to set a ground rule for us here, because that creates a safe environment for everybody, is to be respectful of each other. And if you're going to make comments, please be conscious of the fact that you're speaking to another human being, and you're not just, this isn't just bleh, so my intention here with talking about Shanann and that telling text that I feel is one of the most important statements about who she was and who she is to us. I'm going to talk about that. But before I get into that, I just really want to underline and say that please be kind to each other. And that's kind of the ground rules, so we can play together and talk about how this case has affected all of us. Now, if you feel you're over it, just scroll on by. And just so some of you know, this weekend, I really kind of looked at a lot of the messages you sent. And there's just so many shout outs I want to do. I feel like there's not enough time. Okay, so I'm going to tonight talk about that text. And then I'm going to a couple other things that I really energetically noticed. And I was talking today about people in our lives who are twisty. Do you know what I mean by twisty? They're the person who like twists your words, So if I say to you, I think that over there's, oh, look, there's twinkle lights there. I think those are twinkle lights, first thing. No, they're not. They're not. Like, just to argue, or to doubt your reality. Now, we know that's gaslighting, but I also look at it as a twister, okay? Like somebody who just comes in. And I feel that in some ways, that's how Chris Watts came into Shanann's life. He came in like a cyclone. And, in the cyclone, a cow got dropped in her yard, and he went, oh, you have a cow? And she's like, I have a cow? So I think there was a lot of that going on undercurrent. Now, I know I got some great messages from men as well who said, I kind of understand Chris and I don't want to say it. And I just want to say, you say what you're really thinking and feeling. And if someone has something that's really kind of opposite of what you want to hear, just say, this is unsettling to me. And I respect what you're saying, and here's what's coming up for me. Like, we're gonna try to be respectful of each other. Any haters, if you attack anybody viciously, anybody who's like, I'm over this, well, then be over it. We'll be removed from the channel. I had to work with somebody who's going to come in and do that for me, because it's a little too overwhelming for me to see, when people are negative. So, okay, let's talk about that text that I think is extremely telling. I'm going to pull it up for me. In July, Shanann sent a text to Chris, and it says, I realized during this trip what's missing in our relationship, ! It's only one way emotions and feelings. I can't come back like this. I need you to meet me halfway. And Chris then sent a text that just said, he was sorry and he loved her, right? So then it became a dialogue. But before I get into that, and I don't think that's as important as, I don't think that is as important as what I feel that particular conversation, just her statement. Think about this. I figured out what's missing in our relationship, the emotions, and in that sense, the love is only going one way. Think about that. Now, this is in July. And if you go all the way back, let's go back to Cyclone, right? When they met. And, Shanann, from all indications, I mean, whatever you're going to say about her, I just don't want to hate on her, because I feel like she's giving some of us a very real lesson. And I feel that her life had purpose if we look at it as she's trying to send us all a message. And I feel very strongly that we can't ignore this. For those of you who've been kept up nights by this, I mean, it's a heinous crime when we look at what Chris did. And I'm talking about everybody in this, you know, this drama, everybody on the chessboard, right? And when I say drama, I don't mean it derogatorily, okay? But when we look at people in this, Shanann had a very serious car accident. Chris even alluded to it in, I think, one or two of his videos where he said she hit her head, she passed out. And, you know, during that time, she discovered lupus and autoimmune disorders. And, you know, remember something here too. And I know we've all been through it where at one time or another, we think something might be wrong. And so, you know, we go for 100 tests, or we think something's up and nothing's found, but yet we know something's there and we pursue it anyway and we heal ourselves. So in Shanann's case, I really want to put out there that, you know, lupus is very serious. And, you know, whether you kind of roll your eyes with all the gluten-free, whatever, let's just take it from the basis that Shanann believed she had it, and it was important to her to take care of herself around that. Now think about the level of care it takes to take care of that kind of disease, all right? You're watching your food intake, because anything that can flare it up is a lot of internal pain. You're taking care of your food, what you're eating. Now, here's the thing. You know, having that car accident, and she even said it, she met Chris at a low point in her life. You know what I think? I think that when we are at a low point, we don't always recognize who's coming in the front door. You know, it's kind of like moving, and you've got 20 boxes. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you. I know I had it happen when you're moving and you're missing a box. It got stolen. And it's because things get misplaced when you're scattered, when you're not at the top of your game. And for her, if we really look at Shanann and how she bought that house in North Carolina, she worked really hard. And we know that she was a hard worker. Her family says it. Her friends say it. I mean, this, you know, and again, you know, we're talking about somebody who was a successful salesperson. She was successful. And, you know, I don't care. You can, MLM, but her car was being paid for. And it wasn't just her word. There were other people saying it. So to get to that level in this MLM thing, I want to say the MLM scheme, you need to be making a certain amount of money and need to be moving a certain amount of product. Now let's go back to, she meets Chris. And as an alpha, one of the things I know as a woman, right, is that, you know, women in general, we're in our masculine energy when we're working, and we want to be in our feminine energy when we're home. You know, beta and and alpha, whatever, like, woo. You know, the thing is that when we're home, we want to be in our feminine. And so let's look at this energy as feminine and masculine. So men may say, wow, she was a ball buster. She busted his balls. And maybe she did. I'm not on that side of things. But what I can tell you is that she was a go-getter. She had that masculine energy. She created that house. She built that house. She sold that house. And yes, she left the furniture in it. But, you know, I don't know about you, but like when I moved from California here and I got a new house and I brought some of my furniture, it's all gone. I don't really want the furniture I brought here. So, you know, people are like, oh, she had to leave it behind and in a hurry. Well, we don't really know that, but we do know energetically following her. So let's get back into that. And what I'm going to say to you is she meets Chris. He messages her on Facebook. Oh, his cousin's wife, and they're no longer married, said you should meet, and tried to put them together. She was like, no. He messaged on Facebook. She said no. And then finally he said, oh, let's be friends. And she said, okay, right? So think about that for a minute. This wasn't a mutual, wow, I really want to meet that guy. You know, she knew she wasn't in a place where she wanted to talk to anybody. In fact, she was very aware of being in her feminine. And she was very aware of when you're in that feminine space, you need the masculine. You need a masculine who's going to stroke your hair, who's going to let you sleep on his lap for 4 hours. Now, I know some people are like, well, who cares? You know, what kind of guy wouldn't get up? That's not the point. The point is how she experienced him in the beginning as being a masculine caretaker. So if we really look at it that way, then we can begin to see how Shanann's like, wow. And you know, as a woman, when you meet a man, you go like this, oh, thank God. And I want to really just say that, you know, I'm going to do another video on this whole thing of, you know, toxic masculinity. But the thing I want to say about this is that the more we put labels on things, the less we understand our nature. Because then we're trying to define, well, I think it means this, and you're going to think it means that. So let's not define it. Let's just look at, so Chris meets this beautiful woman, and you know he's attracted to her. And like, you know, here's the thing. This is where guys and girls are a little bit different, right? Because we fall in love with the deal. You know, guys go, yeah, do you want to come sit on my yacht? And we're like, what? You know, it's like, and I'm not saying all women are like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying men make plans and promises. That's just, and when I say men, that's a masculine energy. And women can do it too. Women can be masculine energies. So women fall in love with the deal, what they're hearing from the guy. Men fall in love with what they're seeing. So they're very, you know, they're very wanting that. Now, this can be in any relationship because it's male-female, right? So it's male energy, female energy, and the twain meet. Now, at any time, these roles can switch. They can go different ways. But here's what happens when you have an immature boy pretending to be a caretaking man. Well, over time, you've got this guy, and he's like, wow, he's great. You know, he like, you know, he let me lay on his lap. What else did she say about him? I don't know about you, but I didn't hear a lot being said. But I did hear he mowed the lawn. He did the laundry. He helped with the girls. So he did help with certain things. But here's what's happening. The roles that they played were, if you think about it, when he came home, he was doing feminine chores. He was doing things that, now I'm not saying mowing the lawn is, but like laundry, cleaning the house. You know, Shanann did it too, but when we look at this kind of energy between two people, we start to see that there's a shift going on. Now, there is a block of time between when they were in North Carolina and when they moved to Denver, or Colorado, when there's this gap, right? So what happens in that gap is that we start to see that something in their relationship was settling. And, you know, there's a picture, and I wish I could find it, guys, I'm serious. It's a picture at their wedding where she's like leaning forward like this, and he's behind her, and he's just looking at her almost emotionless. And he's just like, it's the strangest thing. She was happy. And this is a woman who really was very excited about forming this life with Chris. And again, I want to say this, having lupus, that's a very dangerous thing to do, to have children, because autoimmune diseases, not only are you, you know, challenging your own body, but the children too. And as we found out, both Bella and Cece had breathing issues, right? Asthma. And sometimes kids grow out of that too. But we know that Cece had, I want to say, operations on her. And I know somebody's going to message me about it. I think it was her larynx or her throat. It was something to open up her esophagus, something in there. Forgive me for not knowing exactly what it is. So and I took notes because I wanted to underline this. She also says in a text to him that he is selfish and that he has no concern for others. Now that is extremely telling. And I'm going to talk about the dynamic a little bit. When they're in Colorado, those final months, let's start with June, when she told him she was pregnant, and he looks at the pregnancy stick and he says, wow, when you want something, it happens. Think about what he said. He's saying she wanted it to happen. Now, Also, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, and I will put the link, by the way, on here. There is that video. I know a couple people said to me and asked me to look at it. The video where she talks about relationships. I'm sorry, but like, I mean, basically, and I think I wrote this down, he basically outlined what was going to happen when his marriage broke down. He basically gave the whole outline of what was happening, why it broke down, what he did wrong. Everything was right there in that video. And it was a video he did for college. What was interesting was that was in 2012 when he did that video. I think he was pre-recording it for a class, and there were some people in his house. But what's really interesting is there was a message at the bottom of the video. There were people who, because it was on Chris's YouTube channel. Don't subscribe. You can go look. But there's a note from Shanann that says, at the bottom, it says, "Great job, Christopher," something like that. And I thought that was very interesting. So, even then she was supporting him. She was really cheering him on. When I look energetically also at Shanann, she was a worker. Capricorns are workers. She wanted to get out there and do. She wanted to have things and acquire things. It was in her nature. Now, let's look at what starts to fall apart here. Because the thing is that when Shanann found Thrive, one of the things that happened for her was she found something that helped her, that she believed in, and she was a go-getter. I mean, I am sorry, but like, there was an interview with one of her best friends who grew up across the street from her growing up. This woman was selling Thrive because of Shanann. I mean, they hadn't talked in a year or something, but Shanann was in touch with everybody. And I think one of the things you want to look at here is that when Shanann believed in something, there could be snakes, fire, earthquakes. This woman was going to make it happen. And I find it interesting that in our world today, we call that kind of woman a ball buster. She's selfish, she's this. But it's like, if she were a guy, we'd go, wow, she's getting it. She's out there. She's making it happen. But then when we apply this to a relationship, we look at it as this woman was obviously taking control from her man. And, we start to look at an interesting dynamic that I think we're all interested in uncovering, discovering, and discarding. I mentioned, I think it was in one of the videos, I talked about the hierarchy of a woman who, the woman who's single with not dating at all versus the woman who's widowed, right? So I went through the different hierarchies, and people were like, that's old, that's ridiculous, that's stupid. How can you say that? That's like, and I thought, wait a second though. I'm not saying that I believe it. I'm just saying this is something to look at. And here's the thing I want to say. We're looking and exploring our feelings about this because Shanann really was successful. And, to be successful in an MLM, and we can put aside the judgment of what an MLM is, okay? Because I had a friend who sold stuff for years. And I mean, she made me sell all kinds of crazy stuff. I'd be like, I really don't want to sell oxygen in a little, but okay, I'll buy it. It's like, just like I'd give her the money so she'd stop. And the thing is that Shanann's heart was in this. She really believed that Thrive was helping her heal. And I tell you what, she was such a powerhouse that I believe it was probably working a little bit on her. I mean, for this woman to risk a third pregnancy, I mean, it's just almost unfathomable. Now, there's something else I want to say about this pregnancy, because one of the things that Chris says, and I got it on here, so I'm going to bring it up, in his relationship, I'm sorry, I just like, I mean, in his relationship video, somebody take my pulse. I mean, what is that? I'm going to go listen to Chris Watts and what he has to say about relationships. No. But what I am going to do is look at it in terms of like, crazy is as crazy does, right? Because we're going to look at this. Now, let me see. Here it is. Okay. Obviously, And I'm reading some of the excerpts that it is in the Denver Post. And the actual title is Chris Watts, forgive me, Christopher Watts talks relationship. I'm sorry, that's like, I don't know, that's like asking a chef to put a roof on a house. Okay? It's like, you know, the old cliche of like, it's like going to a hardware store and going, hi, I'm here to buy some milk. And they're like, we don't sell that. Yeah, okay. Well, where's the bread? We don't sell that either. This is kind of like the insanity. Now, some people have said this, check this out, of the pretend, right? I believe that over time, Shanann was sucked into this facade. And this is what happens with, you know, when I was saying like, you know, the crazy makers, this is what happens with them. They kind of twisty, you know, they twist it. It's like, oh, really? And you start doubting yourself. And especially at the end, you can see all those texts. Let's talk about the relationship. I know I'm going on. Okay. So, okay, it is on YouTube. I will post the link for you. He titled it Communication Speech, Relationship Deterioration and Repair. Okay, he speaks in it of, okay, he uses an example of infidelity, possibly with someone at work. He also starts to say in this video, he talks about, and really, is this not predicting his own future? This is a dangerous foretelling of who this man was and who he was going to become. You know, I think somewhere in her mind, Shanann heard this. I mean, obviously she did. She commented on it, right? But think about this. He was saying, when you stop having lust for your partner, in his case, he was saying the partner, the person you're married to, then, and first of all, you know, there is in a marriage that's going to last, there's a deep communion that's happening there. He actually used the word lust in the marriage, and he says, when it fades, okay, he says, these are the things to do. I mean, okay, so anyway, let's see. I want to try and find this stuff. Okay. Here it is. Sometimes you find your partner no longer attractive physically or in their personality, he says. When you're in a relationship, you have to show desire, lust toward your partner. Sometimes when you get married, the lust and the desire kind of fall by the wayside a little bit. Now, how does he know? He did this in 2012. He's like, what, 24? 25, wait, maybe he's 26. I mean, you know, the big expert. And he says, another point he makes, and he says, even at the job, you might meet a new person and it could strengthen into something else and could weaken the bond you have with the partner you have. So, and then he says, and you feel that you might be better with someone else that you've met. You think that you can no longer do that to your partner. You can no longer do that your partner is someone that you can't be with. Sorry. Excuse me. And this is another part where he says he openly talks about expressing support and affection. Again, I'm paraphrasing from the Denver Post here, not the actual video. And he says, quote, sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. This is the last part I want to share. He lists 3 questions to ask when a relationship is in jeopardy. 1, do you have the desire to keep this relationship going? Do I have a moral obligation to stay in this relationship? Or is it a necessity for me to stay in this relationship? I find it very interesting that the FBI agent, they had been told about this video. They didn't really mention it. But a lot of the language in here, moral obligation, do you have moral guilt? This is fantastic stuff because He did. It's almost like this was his murder plot. He wrote it out. And there's another thing that I want to say about this that's very important. You know, every person has like I want to say it's almost like their love combination, right? So if you can imagine, like Cinderella can be a woman's, right? Oh, he sweeps, you know, Prince Charming comes along and sweeps us off our feet, you know? And for Shanann, that's what Chris did. He literally was there for her. He protected her. He was her knight in shining armor. Let's look at what Chris did here. Chris laid out the plan for the person he had to be with. This was his ultimate fantasy of love. Let me say that again. This was his ultimate fantasy of love. Sometimes you fall out of love with your partner. It can be like someone at work who you end up spending more time with, you get more interested in. They're interested in you. When a fantasy like this comes into play, it's almost an internal drive that clicks you into, this is the thing I need. And I think that with Chris's weak disposition, what we're really looking at, I'm like so dry, hold on. We're really looking at, it's hard to explain it, and I hope I'm being clear in that it's the exact match to what his fantasy was. And I'm going to share, there's another story. Years ago, I was dating a really great guy, and he told me this wonderful story. And by the way, men will tell you this story, and women will too. They'll tell you their ultimate love combination. The ultimate love combination this guy told me was, well, he said, I knew this guy in my neighborhood growing up, and he was extremely wealthy, but he just dressed in like jeans and t-shirt, and we didn't know he had millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he said, we had no idea. And when he died, and he's just a nice guy, and when he died, we thought, wow, he really just helped the kids around the neighborhood. He was a nice person, but we didn't know he was so wealthy and so, what an incredible person. So what do you think this guy's love combination is? Well, his love combination, it was very simple. His love combination was somebody loving him for him, not knowing he had money. And this guy came from a lot of money. So when you look at that kind of story, you start to see, oh, whoa, wait a minute. That's Chris's love combination. His love combination is get into a relationship. Now let's bring Cindy a little bit into this picture. His love combination becomes, Cindy comes into the picture a little bit here, where he meets a woman who is more successful than his mother. Think about that for a minute. Shanann already had a beautiful home. She already had nice things, and she was better than mommy. So what do you think is happening there with Chris? Now, I did talk about Chris and his mother a little bit, but now let's look at that dynamic a little bit. When we look at how Chris is with Shanann, he's going to play into the role of being her knight in shining armor. And why is that? Because you see, he had to one-up his mother. He had to get away from his mother. You know, most boys break away in their teen years. He didn't. He never did. He didn't break away until he got with Shanann and married her. Because if you think about it, his father even never had any idea of separation, because once Chris left, his father started drinking. Now, here's something interesting, right? Because he starts to have a drinking problem. I think even cocaine was in the combination as well. Now, the power of this is that, so Chris one-ups his mom, right? Then what happens? He gets into this job at Andarko. I hope I said it right, because otherwise I'll get 100 emails. He gets into this job, and he meets the woman who, just as Chris, he lusts after. There's no, in other words, what I'm trying to say is there is no I'm one-upping my mommy. There is no dialogue. There's no, I'm trying to put it the most clear way, and forgive me because I want to make sure that this is clear. we all on some level marry our parents. So what happens is at some point in our relationship, we've got to accept that we actually like certain parts of our parents and therefore our spouse is really cool and we'll work it out. Or we go, whoa, I married mom, I'm out. So when we look at it that way, Chris married a better version of his mother in his mind. The problem is that Shanann was not a sick narcissist. See, everyone's narcissistic. I already said that. A couple of people said, you're narcissistic about me. And I'm like, well, yeah, everybody is, right? And the thing is that there's a difference between somebody who's dangerously that way and there's people who obviously self-care, right? Because we can say, oh, well, she's a narcissist. Well, we don't really know. But here's the thing about Shanann. She was a better version of Cindy. So this competition, and here's Cindy, here's Ronnie, and here's Chris, and all of a sudden Chris becomes a man against his mother. And what do you think is going to happen when that little boy rebels against his mother? She's going to want to attack the object that is pulling him into the role of being a man. She had a lot at stake energetically. Now, here's the thing I want to say. I don't feel these people are consciously going, this is what I'm doing. I think this is the dynamic that I'm picking up. The next thing that happens is, let's go to Chris. Let's cut to the videotape. Let's go to Chris's own video, right? Where he's talking about, and I wish I had it in front of me, guys. I really wish I could I had a transcript of it. But I think it's enough to say, sometimes you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate. A child could help repair it. Any expert. Now, here's the thing. I'm not an expert. This is all my opinion, okay? And when I say that also, I'm an intuitive. That's what I do. I work energetically. And so what I want to say, though, is that you don't need a PhD frickin' D to know that the worst thing you can do to repair a relationship is to bring more burden into it. Now, I know children are wonderful. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's pressure and there's stress in this. Now, bear with me because I have not gotten into the side of Chris here. I'm really just staying on Shanann because if we really, and I want to do that in another video where I talk about the myth, which the myth of the toxic male and all of this, because I believe, and I'm going to say this just so I put it out here now, I believe there's men and there's boys, and Chris desperately wanted to be a man and he just didn't, it didn't work. But here's what happened. I feel like Monk, like here's what happened. So he's got this marriage going. He's like, he meets NK. He meets her somewhere in, I want to say it's in 2018. And he sees her. Now, everybody at work is kind of like knowing. Now, here's the thing about men. I remember going out to lunch with a buddy of mine, guy friend, and we were never into each other. And he said, yeah, she's perfect. She's like, she's got this, she's this, she's a lawyer, she's this, he named all that stuff. And I said, yeah, do you want to fuck her? I mean, And he goes, well, yeah, but, and I go, no. Like, you have to be into this woman. Guys have a different thing. They've got to want that woman. Now, what do you think happened with Chris when he saw NK? She fit the profile he created in 2012. He created his ideal scene. Somebody at work, stresses at home. If you're not careful, you can get pulled into another relationship. You can transfer the lust. And everything he said is what he did with NK. And what do you think happened? Now we've got Mr. Cyclone. He's in this huge spin because it's everything he ever wanted, right? And this, in his own energy here, this is what's going to make him a man. Really being with the woman, right, that fits his stuff. This is his love code, right? So what then happens is, and this is what happens with boys. and it also happens with people that don't know how to communicate. And it's ironic. He's like, you've got to talk to your partner. It's like, you didn't. But he's like having this thing go on where he's saying, he's like, well, I don't know how I feel. And what he was doing was like Pepe Le Pew, he's trying to get away. He's trying to get away because he's like, oh my God, I have this now. I don't know. But yet it's like Narcissus, right? He has the bone and he's looking in the water, but he's also aware that like, he knows if he drops that bone, he could lose both. So he doesn't want to quite let Shanann go yet because, and again, now we're getting into the financial stuff. Now we're getting into the money pressures. And, I was reading up on something that this detective it was a interview where he said, it's the craziest thing. And I'm paraphrasing. He said, it's the craziest thing because men kill their wives because they don't want to deal with alimony and child support and all that. But he said, then they end up getting caught because the husband's the number one suspect. He's like, we know you did it. And, I feel like that, Joe Kenda, well, my, you are the guy I'm looking for. And I feel like the point I'm making is that then what happens, Chris has now and there's a whole nugget here that I'm kind of skipping over that I want to get into in a minute. Two things. Okay. So men are going to relate to Chris's feelings because they're going to relate to the feeling of being trapped. But they're going to be men, and I'm talking about men. Men are going to go, I relate to those feelings, but they're going to be afraid to say, I relate to those feelings, because then women will attack them and go, how could you think that? Well, you want a guy to tell you his feelings, and then you attack him for them, right? But the thing is, men are going to relate to those feelings because all men experience that feeling of being trapped in that way. That doesn't mean they're going to leave their wives. It doesn't mean they're going to murder their children. It means they're men. They have those thoughts. They have that kind of like, gee, but they know the result. Men know the result. The difference here is, he was a boy. And we know that there's probably other things, but I think it has a lot to do with this love code. NK was his combination. Now here's something funny. He was not her combination. So that's another thing to think about. I'm going to talk about her in a different video. Let's not get into her too much right now. And I really want to be careful not to be negative about these people because it's more about like getting into it. It's like uncover, discover, discard, because, getting in touch with the origins of this stuff is so vital in order to just have peace with it. And I was doing an interview today. It was a press interview, and because I have stuff coming up. And one of the things that I was talking about was the idea that oh God, now my brain went blankety blank, but it'll come to me at 3 a.m. The idea that gone. See, if you guys were here right now, I could go, what did I say? And you'd go this, and I'd go, oh, right. So let me get back to that. I will pick it up. If you put it on the comment, maybe I'll remember. Okay. So the men, I know, men relating to his feelings, and they're embarrassed about it. And I think that boys relate to those feelings, and they want the popsicle, they want the treat, they want the candy, this is a thing of never being able to control the energy of your life. And I think part of it is this kind of dynamic of the love combination. It went, broop, broop, and he couldn't handle it. So let's talk about how he then did the push me, pull you with Shanann. And one of the things, and I said this at the top of the video, and I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes, but one of the things that, one of the things that he did was, and we all know gaslighting, right? And for those of you that don't really know what it means, it's actually a movie that came out, forgive me, 40s or 50s. And I talked about it before, but it was about a husband who's trying to drive his wife crazy by lowering the gas lamps at night when he goes out. And then he comes back, she says, the lights are dimming. And he says, no, they're not. So it's denying her reality. So when we look at what was happening with Shanann, he was saying to her, I don't know, I'm confused, I don't know. Meanwhile, he's like, because he can't think. His brain is not working. Now we know all the others, I don't want to get into the other stuff right now. And this isn't about you going, but Tori, it's more like he can't think. All he's thinking about is his love code has been found. He has found this love code. Get rid of this at all costs. And when you get someone who has a certain psychopathy, they're born with it. I don't really know that because that's for the pros to get into, but I can tell you energetically that in a funny way, he had a similar drive that Nicole did, that Shanann did in that moment of like Shanann being able to do her work and being able to make money and being able to succeed. And he was just like, you need to go away now. Because what begins to happen is when a love code is unlocked, the one he's with becomes worthless to him. And he even says it in the video. Go watch that video and you will see it. From what I'm saying to you right now, you'll start to go, oh yeah. Like he really starts to unlock his pattern of what his Cinderella is going to look like. So it's an interesting thing of like how that relationship became what it was. Now, there's a couple things I want to throw out to you that Shanann at the end really nailed him. She said, you're selfish and you have no concern for others. And you know what? And this is not a diss on Shanann at all, okay? This is a thing where, babe, you fell into it. And I think, and I'm talking about Shanann now, because she would I tell you right now, if I knew this woman, I know I would love her. I know I would just love her. And I think that's something that all of us we can see her, yes, she's going on about that, but she was selling. She loved what she was doing. She loved her kids. I'm telling you, that woman could not live a day without those children. I can't even fathom it, but there's something, okay. So she nails him on his true nature. Basically, she rips off that Band-Aid because what's his whole persona? His concern, his caring for others. And what's his big gripe? How much he sacrificed for her. Think about it. And she's going, all you do is think about yourself. You're selfish. And he's like, what? All this I do for you? But you see, what's happened at that point is that he's already in his love combination. So when she says, you're selfish, she was right at that point because he has not been there for her. She's 15 weeks pregnant when he murders her. She's going through hormones. She's like all alone in the world. She's got this man that's there. He's not, he's there, he's not. And she knows that it's over. And I wanted to share with you, I think there was one more thing about this that I thought was very interesting. And forgive me if I can't find it in the right place. I hope that doesn't start playing. Okay. Let's see. No, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Yeah, it's like, I try to give you space, but while you're working and living the bachelor life, what do bachelors do? They work out, they eat healthy, I hope. They date women, they go out. She knew he was living the bachelor life. See, I think this is the thing. Shanann was extremely intuitive. She knew what was going on. She knew her husband was cheating. She suspected, but let me tell you something. I know she knew. And I can just feel that. I know we all can feel that. I mean, any woman out there watching right now, have you ever suspected someone of cheating and been kind of right? Now, here's the thing too. We often know when something's ending also. We have like a spidey sense, right? We have this kind of like, and what happens when we know something's ending, we get almost more desperate to keep it. And so we become more loving, more, let me do for you, let me help you. So what was happening as this relationship was spiraling out of control is basically Mr. Hurricane, right? He's like, like I said about the cyclone, he comes in with this big, I want to say, tornado. I knew I'd get it right. Big tornado, okay? And he's got a cow in his tornado, and his cow drops in the front yard, and he goes, "You've got a cow." And she's like, "I don't have a cow." He says, "There's a cow right there." And she's like, "Oh, how'd that cow get there?" And what I'm saying is that the gaslighting started. He would come in with these big, big, big things, and then he would give her a little bit of love, and she'd go, "Oh, you're right, there is a cow. Oh, I think you're right." Now, what Shanann was going through when she was in North Carolina, she knew her relationship was ending. She knew her marriage was over. But like most women, it's like one more conversation, one more talk. You know, she's pregnant. Let me fix this. And you know what? I don't know anybody, honestly, who wouldn't have fallen into that. Her mother knew, and God bless her mother. Her mother must just be beside herself. Like, I told her not to go. Like, her mother must be like, you know, this is a very intuitive family, by the way, the Ruseks. Forgive me if I say it wrong. They're very intuitive. She even said that gasoline can he has, that's because he's going to go burn the bodies. Not the gasoline. She said he's going to cover them with oil and burn them. You know, Shanann's mother said that. So these women knew what was going on. Okay. Even the husband and the brother, they knew something was up. They saw it. And, you know, I can't really speak right now to the other side, to, like, you know, some of the other characters, but I will talk about Nicole, and I will talk about both Nicoles more. And Nicole Atkinson, who we really love. And we'll talk also about NK. And I think if we look at it, this is just a lot of information that I'm giving you, but I really want you to go look again, if you haven't seen it, the video that Chris does on relationships. I'm going to put it on the page here. It'll be in my description. And please, 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 they just told me this weekend that my channel is monetized. I'm so excited. So if you like this, please share it with other people. Please let them know what we're doing here, that we're really just trying to talk about it. It's not anything that's locked in stone. I want to hear your thoughts too. I'm going to be doing another video probably tomorrow, but I want to be doing another video about about NK. I want to do one about, really, I want to get into the dynamics of Shanann and Thrive. Because one of the things I want to say is, to be successful in an MLM means you're good at something, because you have to, and she wasn't a huckster. This was not a phony woman, okay? It meant she was good at this. So I want to just do that shout out. I'm going to leave you with another thought. I'm sorry, my lips are dry. One of the things I want you to check out, remember how when Chris was being interviewed, he keeps going like this. I just want them back. And he keeps taking it back, right? I want you to notice that when Cindy Watts talks about her son, she does the same thing. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. We'll be talking about that a little bit next time as well. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Please leave your comments below. If you have something nasty to say, don't say it, because I don't want to hear it. But really try to be nice to each other. Please, 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 please remember that this is an open forum to honor the lives of these people. This is not really about saying that they did anything wrong. You know, and even by that, I mean, I want Shanann's life to really teach us. And I know that I just feel she was here to do something important. And I think we all who are following this in this way, who are empathic with it, we feel that too. So I invite you to subscribe. I invite you to leave your comments below. And yes, you're going to see some of my videos about my chakra wisdom toolkit journey I'm taking with people this year. Feel free to bypass whatever doesn't work for you, and I hope to see you in the next one. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts. Just really, I want to just acknowledge all of you, because really smart people, you guys are leaving incredible comments, and I'm going, wow, and just people, you know, validating each other. And I also want to talk about what happened when a woman's dead son came to me, and I'll talk about that in the next video, I think. All right, guys, I'll talk